Okay, so we're going to go for a super thematic panel right now to talk about startups and talk about funding and internationalization of our companies, which is something that hopefully we can do more times because, you know, Spain is growing as a massive startup power, and the bigger we grow the international network, the better. And to talk about that, we have our next speakers that I hope they're getting ready because they're somewhere around there. Dear speakers, are you guys ready? They're chatting there. Like, oh, this is so cool, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so now they're ready. Okay, wait. So not too early, not too late either. So to talk about from funding to internationalization, internationalizing your business, there you go. We're bringing the whole team around the VentureCity. And to start moderating the panel, we have their founder, and I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, CEO, Laura Gonzalez. Big applause, Laura. Welcome on stage. And to follow her, part of her team, Ekaterina, Chief Growth Officer for the VentureCity. Ekaterina, come on board, please. Big applause. Patricia Del Loro, Chief Product Officer. Big applause. Come on, guys. I already called you, Ekaterina. Yeah. Rosa Jimenez Cano, Chief Ecosystem from the VentureCity. Come on, big applause, guys. Victor Severin, CTO. Applause, come on, there's one more. And with Andy Reito, Investor Director at the VentureCity. Okay. And me, I'm the guy at the VentureCity, no?
Yes,
Should
the
I
next
say?
one.
The next one.
From the hiring, so.
Okay, I was talking with Rosa. We'll talk about this later. Okay?
So thank you,
guys,
everyone.
stage is yours. Enjoy.
Thank you, everyone, for being here today with us. We were really thinking about doing something special, interactive, and practical, because I believe that there's so many different workshops and things going on that sometimes we miss the opportunity of answering to key questions. Let me introduce briefly everyone we have in the team. And please, the way we have prepared the session today is so that you guys can interrupt at any moment and do any key question, because we're going to talk very practically about the backstage in a venture capital, in an international Silicon Valley-based venture capital. We're going to talk about things that sometimes is hard to get the answers from, and we're willing to do all the hard questions that you guys make. So first, Andy from Spain.
Well, originally from Belgium and Bilbao, both places. I have entrepreneurial background as well. I started two companies. One was venture-backed. Before that, I had a normal life.
Hi, they don't hear you.
As a consultant, and I joined the VentureCity around a year ago, right after INSEAD, running the fund piece here in this side of the Atlantic.
Victor?
Hi, I am Victor. I am CTO for the VentureCity. My background is mainly on telco. I spent 18 years working on different telco groups and taking care of digital development, integration, and different kind of solutions for Latin America, Central America, and Africa. I started on the VentureCity last year in March, when we didn't have even an office yet, so it has been a really fun ride so far.
And you're from Paraguay?
I am from Paraguay, yes.
Rosita?
Hi, I'm from Madrid. I used to be a journalist. I've always been a tech-passionate person. And finally, I'm stopped being the referee to play with the ball.
And I'm Katya, so joined the team about a year ago. I'm based in San Francisco, originally from Russia, worked in London, and so been 8 years with Facebook in a variety of roles, mostly around growth, and so that's why I'm working on the growth piece inside the VentureCity.
And I'm Patricia. I'm from Madrid. I was working in digital since 2000, which makes me very old. I know I don't look like that. And then I've been working in product in the US and in London for many years for eBay, PayPal. And then I came back to try to digitally transform one of the biggest telcos here in Spain, which is kind of an interesting project. And then I decided to join this amazing team to actually give back a little bit and work with the companies on the product piece.
So before we start, the first thing that I want you guys to understand is that the VentureCity is a new venture and accelerator model. We really try to help founders, diverse founders all over the world, to go to their next milestone we believe in international first. So every time we meet with founders, if it's for the fund or if it's for the growth accelerator, we're always thinking about how big or international or global can business be and how global that founder mindset is. So before we go into the details, and I don't have we have it here. Yeah. So before we have into the details, just so you know, we have invested in 21 companies in our first year. It's a 100 million fund. And we are working with 25 companies a year in the Growth Accelerator. We have offices in San Francisco, Miami, Madrid, and Sydney, and we are currently looking for the next 12 companies. As I was saying, we only work with 25 companies a year, so if anyone here is interested, please find us afterwards, because we're very much looking forward to keep working with you guys. So, from funding, I think that the best one to talk about this is Mr. Areitio.
Yeah, the first thing I want to talk is, I think the first question is not whether how you raise money, but actually, do you need to raise money? I think that is probably one of the main misunderstandings that I see over and over. If you don't need VC money, that's very good news. And I pointed an example, Checkpoint. It's a cybersecurity company in Israel. They only raised once, and now it's a $6 billion company. So it's hard to find a model that does not need to raise money, but if you can fund your business thanks to customer, that's very good news for you. But sometimes you need to either invest money in product, so you need to raise venture capital, or you want to go faster, so then you need to raise VC money. So in that case, my recommendation is that you learn the game. And so for that, I recommend a book, Venture Deals. It's a classic. We don't have time to go through tips, so I guess the best thing is to point to that book.
He's like the Bible of VCs, just so you guys know.
Yeah, and it was written by the very serial entrepreneur who learned the game from both sides. He became an investor. Then the second thing is I would recommend is to understand the VC animals. It's an industry. They manage money, so they have economics. For that, I would recommend to go to Fred Wilson blog. Just Google Fred Wilson VC economics, and you have a lot of. He's very transparent, so he posts about the good and the bad. And the third thing I would recommend is to understand the decision-making process. In our case, the way we operate, we gather data, and we'll learn more about that in a while. But data is like the main entry door. I would say that data correlates with the amount of risk. If the more data you have, the more you can de-risk your company. So the sooner you start focusing on that, the better. Then judgment, which is not the same as analysis, is whether you believe an hypothesis, this will happen or not. And the third part is luck, which I think very few people talk about it. I think from the statistical point of view, luck is very relevant. If you understand luck, then you're making better decisions, randomness. So that would be the 3 points that I guess make sense for decision making.
So for us, 80% of the decision is the founder, understanding the founder's vision, and also understanding if all the problems that founder is going to have, is if we are going to be able to solve them. Because one thing that when you guys are looking for venture capital money, you need to really define what kind of VC you want, because not every VC is going to help you in everything you're going to need. There are VCs that will help you with contacts, VCs that will help you with just money, VCs that will help you with product or engineering or tactics. So it's very, very important for you to read the investment thesis of the VCs. There's a question, I know there's a mobile phone, sorry, of VCs, so that you really make your time the most efficient possible.
Something I want to point out about data is that everything creates data points, right? So your experience, your LinkedIn profile is a data point. So what's your experience? Is your team a good fit for the market you're targeting? So it's not just the numbers what we look at, but basically numbers that give you a lot of data, right? But it's not just the numbers, it's anything that can become a data point.
So any questions from the audience regarding any hard questions for a venture capital? No? I had so many questions when I was raising money, guys. Okay, maybe at the end. So, next. Let's talk about people a little bit. So, Rosita, go to the next one.
Good. So first thing is try to know yourself. For a long time, I was feeling that I wanted to be something different from what I was. And I think I found a great opportunity. So if you're thinking of going further in your career, maybe it's a good option both to become an entrepreneur or be part of the VentureCity. What I mean is that try to follow your own path and find your inner strength. And for us, the key hires, as Laura knows, has been part of our foundation. We are a very diverse team. We are, I think, more than 11 nationalities, more than 60% women in our team. We love people that are not the usual suspects. So Silicon Valley, we love it. We love their methods, the way they do business. But we all understand that one of the key problems they have is that everybody looks, maybe they have different colors, but they just think one way and they have one way to do the things. We want to understand the rest of the world because we come from every, as you know, corner of this globe. The globes don't have corners, but you understand what I mean. So we try to be flexible on the way we think, the way we behave. We don't have like a time schedule fixed. We have our meetings, we do one-on-ones, but the way we work is more try to be yourself and be passionate about what you do and give your best to the team. And one of the things is that I love here, we are humble and humble enough and brave enough as to say, I don't know a thing about that, but I'm going to learn about that. So we are all learners. I'm learning, I think my last 6 months have been the most rich in all my life, not just the people I've met, but the way they think. And I'm all the time excited about all the things I don't know. So it's hard. Learning is always difficult, and it implies a big effort. But I think it's the best way to give back our best. Thank you.
So one thing that is important there is that for those, how many entrepreneurs do we have in the room that are raising capital? So don't let any VC or any potential investor change the way you are or the vision you have for your company. That's the biggest mistake we see. So as Rosa was saying, follow your passion, know yourself, and go for that. Should I next?
Yeah.
So, super product, Patricia.
Well, the thing is that now being on the other side, I mean, I know what is working in a team that is creating products and what are the key things for the successful ones. So these things are what we look at any company that wants to join our VC or our acceleration program. So I would say what are the things that we definitely think are key to make a product successful, right? So the first thing is that we want to understand how the teams understand the name of the game, because not always the short-term monetization is the right thing to do. I'm not saying it's not the right thing to do. Maybe it's not now. So understanding the vision in terms of the name of the game is important. As you know, any product that has been successful is a balance between technology, design, that solves a real problem for customers and actually meet business needs. So all of this, right? So it's not easy balance, right? So the way we approach it is to actually first understand the mindset. So how, like what and how, right? What is about, what are they building, what is the vision, how are they thinking about monetization, when it comes, all these kind of what. But we also look at their mindset in terms of how. How are they thinking about retrieving the customer's feedback? How are they making sure that they keep a line on all the different signals of the market so they actually navigate the path rather than just sticking without being blind around themselves, right? So for us, it's a learning mindset that independently of the actual product is key for us, and that's one of the key things that we actually look at the companies when we analyze them. Of course, it's about a strategy and it's about execution. Another thing we look at is how they define success. So how do they define the business KPIs they follow to make sure that they are successful? And not only the business KPIs, but also the product KPIs, right? Because I hear a lot about, and it's good, CAC, LTV, blah, blah. Yes, it's good. But also, what are the product KPIs? For example, in a marketplace, do they measure liquidity? Do they measure velocity? Are they aware that the marketplace is asymptotic? Do they take care of the multi-tenancy because of this type of business model? So these are the key things that we ask them to understand if they actually know their name of the game, right? Whatever is the product, they should have that. And the other piece that we actually also look at a lot is the roadmap. And not just because of the pure roadmap. Sometimes the roadmap, we can help them to change. But it's how did they come up with that roadmap? What is the decision process? What are they taking into account to make the decisions? We've seen a lot of roadmaps that are just a list of releases, like just build, 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 build. Why? Right? Why did you choose that to build, and how is that going to affect your KPIs, business or product KPIs? And the end, as we were talking, is the team, right? So product is not very well known outside Silicon Valley, London, etc. So we need to understand how product function sits into the organization. We've seen, of course, in the seed stage, product is normally the founder. I mean, we don't expect a product manager in a seed company or in a Series A maybe. But we definitely need to feel that accountability and that end-to-end responsibility is there. And then, of course, product managers will come if things go well, right? But it's kind of, is the team understanding the importance of the product and the decision-making process of that? And are they allowing the space of that function to actually shine in these type of companies?
Any questions so far around product? Are there any product managers here? Good. Okay, so moving on to the next one, talking about operations. So this is funny. As a founder, I don't like to run the operations of the company. I am much more interested in meeting founders, in understanding what people are building, and going into the details of certain things, but processing is not important. The more mature your company gets, the more your investors, and the more you should care about that, even if you don't like it. Because there's a lot of inefficiencies. Sometimes we see founders that keep raising money, and they don't need to raise money. They're already making money. Maybe they just can negotiate a debt, a loan, something to get along the way, right? So you will see that from Series B onwards, normally investors and normally you should think about having someone in the team running the operations. So as I said, things like that are very, very basic. As Rosa was saying, we have all spent a bunch of time in Silicon Valley working there. Not everything in Silicon Valley is good. There's a lot of highlights and lowlights. Highlights, they always set measurable goals. It's super important that every member of the team, no matter if they're in engineering, in product, or where, they have measurable goals, and you actually act on them. 2, over-communication and sharing, especially in organizations that are going global. We have members in, as I was saying, Sydney, Madrid, San Francisco, Miami. You can't imagine the calls at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 5 p.m., whatever. It's a mess. So it's really, really important to make sure that the company, through Slack, through WhatsApp, through you name it, Trello, whatever, have all the resources available so that people can share efficiently and so that everyone can have the same information at the same time. And of course, as I was saying, tech is your friend, but it's not the only friend. We are humans at the end of the day. If there's an issue, give them a call, Sometimes we tell to WhatsApp, terrible conversation, no, because I understood, because it was a misunderstanding, etc. Just call them. Things like that that seem very obvious, but in the day-to-day, sometimes we don't make it. And of course, as leaders, we need to empower others. We have the responsibility to make sure that each of the members of the team does what they do best, and that they're always at the maximum capacity of what they can do. Especially in startups where you don't have very many resources, this is one of the things that keeps coming to us all the time. And titles mean nothing. So you see, we're all chiefy, because they don't really care. At the end of the day, I'm responsible for this, she's responsible for that, Kat is responsible for the other thing, and we're all at the same level, and we all vote for our investments or for the companies that come into the accelerator. Any questions there? You're so quiet, or we're boring you, or you guys are so quiet. I hope the questions come at the end. So engineering, Mr. CTO.
Okay, so It is impossible to assume that
Whatever. It's delivered.
any VC or any team will be a specialist in every single field related to engineering, but the things we look at are not that detailed. We look more like, let's say, logical stuff. Like, for example, how pragmatic is the CTO or the head of architecture in the way he has choose, for example, the technology stack. We have seen many times, especially in early stage startups, in which when we start analyzing how they build the solution, we see, okay, they have choose a shiny new tool that might be super cool to work on, but has little support from the industry. There are not a lot of developers who knows that tool. It is so new that it's still evolving as a tool. So what we found is that many times CTOs keep spending more time actually trying to catch up with the change on the tool than actually building the core product that will provide value for their users. At the same time, if you have choose something quite obscure, when you need to grow the team, where are you going to get those developers from? Can be a super cool tool, can be the state of the art, but if nobody is using it, you will have issues when scaling. And obviously, most of you want to scale your business eventually. And no matter how good of an engineer is your CTO or you as a CTO, you will always need extra hands. And the same goes when hiring people. I mean, you need to hire developers that you would like to work for. Because when you're an early stage startup, those few first developers you hire, those are the ones that should tell the rest about the culture, how you work, and what is the mission. So whoever you hire, just think that someday you might end up working for that guy. So make sure that those first developers you hire have enough open-mindedness to learn a lot about the journey and have also enough humility, let's say, to being able to accept they don't know something and follow some other team members. Your team should be data-driven. And here is not only in the decision-making part, but when you're building a solution, make sure that whatever you build will allow you to collect, storage, and analysis, and make data analysis super easy. I have seen many times when we receive pitch decks, and we say, okay, can you show me the data in this way? And they say, oh no, we can't, or it will take 2 weeks, or I have to prepare a sprint for that. And usually we don't ask for really weird stuff. It's just the typical way of looking at data, but because of the way it was built, the system is not friendly with data gathering. We are all okay with the MVP. It should be the minimum viable product. But for an MVP to be valuable, you should be able to learn from it. And you should be able to gather data effortless from it. So don't let data gathering, logging, and the analysis part for the time you are bigger. That should be one of your building blocks from the early start. And that goes hand in hand with your core team. Your core development team needs to have a deep product understanding. They cannot be just like the software factory model in which they receive a user story and they will just go and implement that and get back that to you, because that will not scale and will not create an enjoyable product. If your engineers understand what is your vision and they understand what is important and what is not for the product, they will be much better in deciding in what to use their time. Because when that doesn't happen, I mean, it's really easy, and I started as an engineer a long time ago. It's really easy for you as an engineer to spend countless hours creating more efficiency in a part of the solution that nobody cares about. So you are super proud of, hey, yeah, I just shaved 3 seconds here. Nobody cares, nobody used that. And you just burn 2 weeks of development. So the more they understand the product, the more efficient they will be in their use of the time. And at the end, be mission focused. If you know the product, if you know what's core for your users, don't reinvent the wheel. I have seen countless of time development teams showing me their next sprints, and it is create our own dashboard platform, or create our own sprint management, or our own push. You don't need to create your own anything but your product. There is a lot of other teams creating their own whatever, and they will be always probably better than your team in that, because that's their product. So don't try to create all your ecosystem. Try to see best in class. Obviously, things that you can afford. Don't go to a tool that is super nice, but you know you won't be able to pay next year if A, B, or C doesn't happen. But there's a lot of options in the market. So people usually ask me, oh, and how do I get to know those options? There's 1,000 places, Capterra, Stackshare, Product Hunt. So be creative when choosing your toolset and write a single line of code that you don't actually need to make your product successful.
So how many engineers do we have in the audience today? And how many engineers do we have in the audience today? Okay, because that's also a good mix, right?
Yes.
The engineers and the engineers. I'm the engineers, by the way, but he's the engineer.
Any questions there?
Any questions? Questions
Yes.
there? On there. Ladies first. No, is there a lady? Yes?
Yes?
You can see it.
Yes,
We don't see you. Can you stand up?
Hi, my name is Maria. My question is, do you also help the startups you invest in to find the right talent for the engineering teams?
Yeah, many times we have participated in the interview process, and other times in creating like the job description. A common ask is early on is, oh, I need to hire a data scientist. I mean, you need a data scientist when you have enough data for him to do some scientific work with it. And many times you hire the data scientist and you don't have the data or the data pipeline. So probably we guide them a little bit and say, no, probably now you need a data architect that will allow you to gather the data, store it in some place. So when you hire the other guy, he will have a lot of fun things to do. But yes.
And we also have one company that we invested on. It's based in Silicon Valley. It's called Get Rocket, and they do a lot of, they're basically getting rid of headhunting, and what they do is looking for the type of talent you need for the startups, meaning CTOs, CPOs, product, growth, and I think...
Design.
And design.
Yep.
So if you're looking for anyone, we have a startup in the portfolio that can help you there. There was another question there?
Thank you.
We love questions, by the way. It's so boring talking about what we do every day, all the time.
I don't know what did you say, Victor, but it's working.
Hi. So you mentioned deep product understanding, but if you're in a very specialized business, like ours, we are in digital wealth management, for example, there need to be a base, a theoretical base to understand the product better. So, and it's very hard to find people like that. So what is your opinion about a kind of in-house education programs? Is it something that can be organized inside the startup? What's your experience? What's your view on that?
Well, for most startups are not related to hard science or to like creating new stuff. More startups are trying to do like daily stuff more efficient, right? The ones that are doing what you mentioned are more hard to hire for because you have like many times like 20% of the specialists on a single field in a country are in that startup already. So obviously creating an internal educational program might make sense, but that will require you to be much more careful when hiring because your cost of acquisition of that employee will be a lot higher. You will dedicate 3 or 6 months to train him. He better stay for at least 24 months and generate a lot of value for make the time of your other team members worth it. So if you are going to create a program like in which engineers will be shadowing a new hire for a long time, the selection process should be much more detailed and focus on culture fit and commitment.
Okay, so moving into growth and internationalization.
Yeah, but can I actually add to that question? Like answer a little bit, because I think that you just need to look for the growth, like product mindset. And then like there are good engineers that would make great products, and like especially like sometimes designers can make great product managers. And it's not about educational program; it's more about looking for that mindset, and if they can actually like if you see them interested in that and pushing for stuff, then I've seen that happening a lot actually. And I think that in the environment where there is no formal education, that might be a good idea to try that out actually. So, but moving that aside, so. Victor just talking a lot about like data. Now let's talk about like what you need data for. So basically, like you not just collect it, but then you use that for A, understanding what is happening in your product, and B, using that for experimentation and moving your product forward. Because growth is this like just an all-encompassing word almost, because every time when somebody talks to me about growth, I'm like, okay, let's start with like what you define as growth, like what is growth to you? And there's what I see the majority of the companies now, especially the ones that like haven't been growing with this like growth discipline and don't have folks who've been working in growth before, they basically renaming their marketing team into growth team, and that's what they do. But this is not what growth is, because growth essentially, the simplest way to think about growth is that how you can use your product to build and understand product channel fit for what you're bringing to the world. Because in the world that we are right now, all the distribution channels are super expensive, right? Because like all the big incumbents like Google and Facebook, they're doing an amazing job of optimizing the prices for themselves as a distribution channel. So it's really hard to get distribution, and that's why in order to be able to be successful long term, you need to think about like, okay, how does your product can help you grow? And there is the first simple question that people start thinking about virality and sharing and all those things, and this is great, but not all products are done with virality in mind. But if you have some ideas around that, this is always good to explore for your product. But then the second thing is like, what are the ways of kind of using existing channels and trying with the smart ways of like use those channels to grow your product. And I don't like the word like growth hacks because it's overused as well. And sometimes what people understand under growth hacks is a lot of just like spamming your users, spamming somebody else's users, right? And do that, which I don't think is a good idea. But you should be creative in thinking like what might be the channel for my distribution. And just a simple example of that, like Airbnb grew off the back of Craigslist, which has been and still is a big website that has listings of everything from like cats and dogs to obviously how you can find or rent your place. And they've actually been like creating almost like fake accounts of saying like, hey, linking to Airbnb, because they had to create this incoming traffic for their hosts that they found. And so that's like just one of the ways. I'm not saying that like this is like the best way of doing that, but what I'm saying, I'm using that as an example of like, when you build the product, you should fundamentally think of like, not only about, oh, this is an amazing product that I'm building and like bringing to the world, but how actually people find out about your product. What can you do inside the product, and what, in order to help people find out about that, how do you design the new user experience in a way that people can get to the value of your product faster? And then obviously how you think about what are the channels that your product can use to find its users, and like how to think about that. And data is a super very important underlying foundation for all that, because you also need to be able to go very fast through this decision making and test different things and understand if they work and how they work, and what type of users you are getting from different channels, and how do you optimize this user journey. And so that's like what briefly is growth about. So it's a combination of art and science, and that's essentially why I love it, because you really need to be creative to be able to do that right, essentially.
So Katya used to work for Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp leading growth in San Francisco, so she knows a little bit about that. I think it was great, the fact that you said that it's not marketing, growth hacking, everyone is overusing that. No, growth is about the product and how, as much as possible, you can build a product so it grows organically and goes beyond what was thinkable. So this is everything we had prepared for today. Not sure if we have 3 minutes left.
Yeah.
Not sure if you guys have any other questions. As I was saying, we love hard questions. Mm-hmm. So one question here. And you don't get to see us together very often, so.
Hi, I'm Nacho Esteban from 24 Genetics. For the companies that don't really need too much money but help, do you also work with these kind of companies?
Yes, we try to help. So one thing that I hope it defines us, and you should talk to founders about that, is that of over the 1,000 potential companies we've looked at in this year, we never give an empty no, because we are founders as well, and I hate when I don't get feedback about why I'm not getting the money or what I'm not doing right, you know? So we always try to give you feedback of the key things that we know you should be building on so that you can really go home and perform better because you're getting this feedback and maybe come back once you have solved all those potential issues and your product is going somewhere. We do also have a team, and Danny, you stays at the end. And Borja, not sure if Borja Zamacola is there too. So they lead what we call Studio, which is basically the companies that we don't fund, the companies that don't make the cut for the accelerator at that moment, how can we help them? So yes, we do that. Any other questions? There was a hand.
Yeah.
Yes, Maria again.
Founder and
Yes.
the founder's vision.
Yes.
But then through the presentation, it appears to be that you have to have kind of a quite advanced business, in the sense quite developed business. So what is the earliest stage that you invest in?
So do you want to answer?
Yeah, so I think the earlier you go in the venture life, the more relevant is the founding team, the more the risk is mitigated by the skills of the founding team, the more the venture advances and goes to a scale up, the more it's about the business model, the product market fit, and other things that are more, you can gather data about that. So I think the first piece is more an art, but I think there is a lot of data around it, like how resilient this founder is it really passionate? I would simply say that the mission that the founder is pursuing is probably the most defining part. If it's a mission-driven founder, normally founders, they tend to pursue it no matter what their mission, right? So I think that's it's not the same kind of data what you look at different stages.
So it's more about the mindset. So sometimes we meet teams with 3 people and they have the right team. Someone doing product, the CEO, and someone doing technology. And they're really focused on data. So we like that. Because you see that anything they're going to be doing, they're going to track if they're doing it the right way or not. Yeah. You know? And it doesn't really matter if they're early, Series A, Series B, or Series C. In fact, we invest 1/3 in early stage, 1/3 in Series A, and 1/3 in Series B+. But that foundation and mindset is something that or you have it or you don't have it. And I'm going to go even farther into this because I think it's important. When we see CMOs or marketing experts or business developers in early stage startups, that's a huge red flag for us. Huge, okay? Because first you need to build something and then you monetize it, you know? So we're very much about analyzing the way they think and everything. We make a lot of mistakes too, obviously. Not sure if you guys want to add something, but that mindset is something where you have it or you don't have it.
So I guess, I mean, I know we've been talking about a lot of things, so it seems like a long list of things. We also have learned about what you can expect from each of the stages. And again, it's about the mindset. So do they have the mindset in terms of making decisions? Do they have the mindset? And they don't have to have all the answers. But it's kind of how they approach things, the what and the how in all the different areas.
And the growth mindset, not for the growth piece, but if you acknowledge that you don't know everything, but you are ready to learn more, I think that's pretty much a very, very important skill we look at. Learning.
We have 1 more minute for a question, if anyone wants to make a question. Okay, good. Just one. We always go beyond. Just one. I know, but we were 10 minutes late, so 1 minute.
My name is Sofia. My question is, you talk about the vision. What would be the 3 aspects that make for you a vision great? You know, when you say
great vision.
What
is a great vision?
Wow, what a vision. Why?
So do you
what
mean
makes a vision great for you?
For me, is the person, like, he's thinking, his global mindset, global thinking, and his resilience. So when I see those 3 things into a vision, there are so many different visions. We've worked with visionaries before in the early days of Facebook. So when you see that that person is persistent, is resilient, is, you know, there are certain things, ingredients into that founder that help him make that happen along the way, That's what we're really trying to digest when we meet them. But there is not one vision. Over time, the vision changes. So these are the things that we're looking for. We can talk later. Anyway, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Gracias.
That's a good.